Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien. ¿Y tú?
Muy bien. Muy bien. Stick these real quick here. Okay, we're going to start out on page 156. And we're going to talk about the plurals of adjectives. So before we talk about how to make adjectives plural, this kind of connects into making nouns themselves plural. So if we have a noun that's masculine singular, like el libro, how do we make this noun plural?
Los libros.
Right, so we've got to change both the article itself and also the noun. And so we'll just add on an S. And then similarly, if we have a noun that's feminine, la calculadora would become,
Las
yeah. Okay. Then, if we have a word that ends in a consonant, like el profesor, how do we make these nouns plural? Do you remember?
Is it ES?
Yeah, With these, we add on ES to the end, and so it would become, the article is the same, it'd just be los again, and then profesores. Okay. Good. All right, and then we also have, like we went over, if we have un in front of something, that would just change to unos. And then una would change to unas, if we were talking about like some books instead of the books, or whatever, some teachers instead of the teachers. Okay, so we know those already, so I'm gonna go ahead and erase these. And it's similar to what we have to do with adjectives. Okay, so actually, take a minute here, I'm just gonna let you read over this grammatical square here on your own at the top of page 156, and then we'll talk about it and write some examples up on the board.
So is S, like the song version of S is song, or the S version, the plural version of
Yeah.
S is song?
Yes, it is. And we're gonna actually, after we look at these plural adjectives, we'll take a look at that verb, which is ser, which means to be. It's I think we learned estar before, which is the other one that means to be. So, Yeah, so, okay, so up here, so this is pretty similar, you're really following the same rules with the adjectives as you are with the nouns. So we'll take a look at, we'll use 3 common adjectives as our examples. So like when we're describing food, in Spanish, a lot of times we use bueno, right, which means good. And then we've got sabroso, which means like delicious or tasty. And then we've got malo, which means bad. And so right now, all 3 of these adjectives, these are all in the masculine singular form, right? They end in O. Bless you. Is that it? So like in a sentence, we might say something like, el bistec es bueno, right? The steak is good. You turned the camera on, didn't you? Okay. Okay, so el bistec is bueno. So of course we want to use the masculine version here because bistec is also masculine. But we can easily make it feminine, so if we want to talk about la ensalada instead, we can do la ensalada es buena. So it's fairly simple. You just want to always make sure that your endings match up, right, in sentences. So typically if you have words that end in A, right, they're all going to match with your article and your noun and your adjective. Okay? Okay, so then if we want to make any of these plural, then what we can do is just add on s's to the end of everything. So I'm going to erase these and we'll go ahead and write some examples of plural ones. Okay, so I'll just use these same sentences. So we could have los bisteces, or bisteces is what it would become, son buenos. And then las ensaladas son buenas. With AS. Okay, then, so they give some examples here. They have la hamburguesa es sabrosa. So the hamburger is good or tasty. Las hamburguesas son sabrosas with AS. And similarly, el pastel es muy popular. Los pasteles son muy populares. So with the adjective popular, since it ends in a consonant, you're going to add on es, just like you would for nouns like professor or something like that. Okay, then it says when an adjective describes a group that includes both masculine and feminine nouns, we'll just default to using the masculine plural form. So, for example, they have the sentence, la lechuga, las zanahorias y los tomates son buenos para la salud. So even though carrots and carrots and lettuce are feminine, tomatoes are masculine, so we're just going to use buenos. Okay, then at the bottom it says, don't forget that the singular form of mucho means much or a lot of, but the plural form, muchos or muchas, means many of something. So, for example, you might say, I don't eat a lot of meat, no como mucha carne, but I eat a lot of vegetables, or many vegetables, so pero como muchas verduras. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so let's take a look at Actividad 13, which asks, ¿Cómo son? What are these people like? And we've got some adjectives here that they give us. It says, for each of these adjectives, name 2 famous people or 2 cartoon characters or 2 people within your school whom the adjective fits. Then write a sentence that describes the both of them. So, for example, in the modelo, it says, Creo que Cameron Diaz y Antonio Banderas son talentosos. I think that Cameron Diaz and Antonio Banderas are talented, both talented. So let's go through and make sure we remember what all of these different adjectives mean. So in number one, we have artístico, artistic. Number two, deportista,
Sports.
yes, sporty, athletic. Número tres, atrevido.
I think that risky.
Yeah, like daring, risky, yeah. What else? Like brave, we might also say. Number four, gracioso,
Funny.
funny, good. Then we've got five, serio,
Serious.
talentoso, talented, divertido. Divertido means like just fun to be around, likable, fun. And then trabajador,
Hard work.
hardworking, yeah. Okay, so we'll just do a few of these and we can do them out loud. So for number one, what two people in this school would you pick out as being the most artistic?
Creo que Paige y Maddie son talentosos.
Okay, so instead of talentosas, we'll use artísticas.
Oh, artísticas.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, and since they're both girls, we'll use es at the end, artísticas. Good. How about deportistas?
Creo que Lauren y
I'm trying to think of other people. Maybe Sasha or
Yeah.
one of the Franzes.
maybe.
Yeah, so
Son, would it be
deportistas.
So deportista.
Because deportista always just ends in an A, no matter who you're talking about. So it'd still be deportistas, even though we have like Sasha in the group, for example. Okay, let's see here, and let's do one more. How about ocho, trabajador, who is hardworking?
Creo que Hannah y Madeline son talentos. No. Trabajadoras.
Trabajadoras, good. Okay, good, excellent. Okay, so now let's flip to the next page and we'll take a look at this verb ser that we're using along with these adjectives. So I'll erase these and I'm going to write the forms up here and I'll have you copy them down as well. Okay, so in Spanish, we have actually two different verbs that mean to be. We have estar, and then we have ser. And ser is the one that we're looking at today. Ser, excuse me, is the one we're looking at today. Estar we use when we're talking about things that conditions that will change. For example, our emotions, we use estar, like when we ask someone, ¿Cómo estás? We're using a form of estar. Or when we're talking about where things are located in the room. The book is on the table, right? We use está, el libro está sobre de escritorio. Okay? But with ser, we use ser when we're talking about things that are permanent. So we use ser if we're talking about like I am American, I'm a dancer, the pen is red, right? It's always gonna be red. I'm always gonna be, my name is always I'm always gonna be American. So these are things that we use that aren't changing. So we'll put, we'll just put for unchanging conditions, so typically like physical descriptions of people or things, occupations, nationalities, like personality traits, things like that. So I'll write up the different forms of ser up here. So we've got up here, repitan, yo soy,
Yo soy.
tú eres,
Tú eres.
él es,
Él es.
ella es,
Ella es.
usted es,
Usted es.
nosotros somos,
Nosotros somos.
vosotros sois,
Vosotros sois.
ellos son,
Ellos son.
ellas son,
Ellas son.
ustedes son.
Ustedes son.
Okay, so all of these just mean, right, like I am, you are, he is, she is, you are, etc. And so in the case of talking about, like, describing things like, you know, the food, it is good, or whatever, we're gonna use mostly these, right, because we're talking about things. So obviously, él and ella mean he and she, but they can also mean it, right, to talk about feminine or masculine items. And then same thing for ellos and ellas. Okay. Bueno. So fairly easy there. Okay. And we saw these before because whenever we talked about how to describe people, we used ser. So it's kind of a review here. Okay, so I've got a couple of practice sheets for you to work on. And so the first page deals with using plurals of adjectives, and then the second page deals with using the forms of ser. So it's fairly simple, and they give you a chart here with each one. So I'm going to give you the rest of the time to work on those, and then we'll have you finish for homework, whatever you don't get done in class.